Welcome back from that short break. In case you're just joining us, this is the News International edition, and we're coming to you live from our Vision Group headquarters here in Kampala, Uganda. Now let's head over to France, where politicians weighed in on proceedings as the government's highly contested pension reform bill enters the final stretch in Parliament. A joint committee made up of senators and members of the National Assembly is meeting to find a compromise on the draft law this Wednesday. France faces another day of strikes on Wednesday over the highly contested pensions reforms bill, which President Emmanuel Macron appears on the verge of pushing through despite several months of protests. We have more.
As the legislation enters the final stretch in Parliament, trade unions are set to make another attempt to pressure the government and lawmakers into rejecting the proposed hike in the retirement age to 64. The last day of protest on Saturday saw a far lower turnout than in the previous rounds, while strikes from railway, refinery and public sector workers last week did not paralyze the country in the way that unions had hoped. You can imagine that when we begin a joint committee meeting, there are discussions that have taken place beforehand. We have a certain number of issues in which we still have to settle. I'm thinking of the senior citizens contract. I'm thinking of the review clause, as you know, to which we are extremely attached. As far as women are concerned, things seem to be well secured, but in any case, naturally, we will have a debate article by article, amendment by amendment. The most visible impact of the standoff so far has been the accumulation of rubbish in the streets of Paris, where garbage collectors and street cleaners have stopped work. You know that there are two drafts. There is that of the Senate and that of the Assembly, so it will certainly be the subject of a discussion. Whatever happens, I can tell you that regarding long careers, there is a message that needs to be passed on, that those who started working before the age of 21 should be given the assurance that they will work for 43 years. The main suspense is whether Macron's minority government can muster the required number of votes in the lower parliament, where it will need the support of the opposition Republicans Party, LR, in order to pass the legislation. A joint vote from the lower National Assembly and the Senate could come as early as Thursday. It's a moment, a day, during which we take the time to look at purely technical points or political points and to find what will allow each of us senators and MPs to vote for the same law. Because let's not forget that a law like this must be voted on in the same terms by the Assembly and the Senate. Macron's flagship proposal would raise the minimum retirement age from its current level of 62 to 64, bringing France more into line with its EU neighbors, most of which have pushed back the retirement age to 65 or even higher. The law also hikes the requirements for a full pension and would abolish the retirement privileges enjoyed by some public sector employees, such as those at the Paris Metro. To continue, to persevere with the reform, or to ask whether the joint committee should be conclusive in less than 24 hours, or this in reality is not reasonable. The crisis is a deeper social crisis than the pension reform itself. It is basically becoming a form of democratic crisis. In any case, a democracy damaged by practice of the executive authority. I think we should be worried. All this is not worth the reform that the government intends to make with all its might. After initially claiming it was intended to make the system fairer, the government now emphasizes that it is about savings and avoiding deficits in the coming decades. In a speech to MPs on Tuesday, Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne insisted that there was a majority in Parliament for the changes, appealing to LR lawmakers who have long championed pension reform. Opinion polls show that around two-thirds of French people are against the legislation. Analysts say this would deprive her and Macron of democratic legitimacy in the face of hostile public opinion and would also expose the government to a confidence vote which it might lose.
And finally, the company behind the ChatGPT app that churns out essays, poems, or computing code on command released on Tuesday after a long-awaited update of its artificial intelligence technology that it said would be safer and more accurate than its predecessor would. GPT-4 has been widely awaited ever since ChatGPT burst onto the scene in late November, wowing users with its capabilities that were based on an older version of open artificial intelligence's technology known as a large language model. We've created GPT-4, the latest milestone in open artificial intelligence's effort in scaling up deep learning, a company blog said, adding that the artificial intelligence exhibits human-level performance on some professional and academic tasks. The company said the model is more creative and collaborative than ever before and would solve difficult problems with greater accuracy than its earlier versions. For example, if a user sends a picture of the inside of a refrigerator, GPT-4 will not only correctly identify what is there, but also concoct what can be prepared with those ingredients. Open Artificial Intelligence said it was working with the computer company Be My Eyes to prepare the next advance. Open Artificial Intelligence is backed by Microsoft, which earlier this year said would be financed the research company to the tune of billions of dollars. The Windows maker then swiftly integrated the tech into its big search engine, Edge browser, and other products. Microsoft's aggressive adoption of ChatGPT has sparked a race with Google, which announced its own versions of the artificial intelligence technology, with Amazon, Baidu, and Meta also wading in, eager to avoid being left behind. Open Artificial Intelligence said that the new version was far less likely to go off the rails than its earlier chatbot, with widely reported interactions with ChatGPT or Bing's chatbox, in which users were presented with lies, insults, or other so-called hallucinations. Verso questioned the safety measures taken by Open Artificial Intelligence, which has already been hit by criticism from billionaire Elon Musk that the company is overly curbing speech on its artificial intelligence in order to avoid more embarrassing responses. Founder Sam Altman admitted that despite the anticipation, GPT-4 is still flawed, still limited, and it still seems more impressive on first use than it does after you spend more time with it. And that's all the international news we had for you. From me and the team behind the scenes, thank you for watching and have a fantastic evening.
Urban